Hello, welcome back to Lenz's Heroes Who Are Awesome and Cool, Episode 3. In this episode, we'll talk about Dr. Stephen Strange, who made his debut back in Strange Tales number 110. And it was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, the creators of Spider-Man. Now, pretty much, I will go over pretty much of his publication history, and I'll go a little bit how really cool he is. Right after his debut, he did appear when he made his debut. It was a 5-page story known as Doctor Strange, the Master of Black Magic. That's what the name of the story was. I remember the story very well. It's a quick 5-page story in Strange Tales because it seemed like it came pretty much like last minute because Strange Tales at the time was dominated as the lead feature by the Human Torch in Fantastic Four. Now, we stayed with the title with that issue and the follow-up issue, which is issue 111. They decided to take him out of the title briefly for a couple issues, probably because they wanted to spread out more story with Human Torch. He came back with issue 114 and then finally left the title with issue number 168. He did also have a brief, I think it was during the series. Then basically the series was continued as Doctor Strange with issue 169. Those Strange Tales did come back and they ignored the numbering. The series itself was Doctor Strange, lasted for 15 issues, lasted 169 to 183. Did also have, during this time, a crossover with Avengers with issue 68 of the series, dealing with basically what was going on with the Black Knight. It was also during this time that they also introduced the costume he would wear during this time, which is basically the outfit he's known for wearing, plus he wore a mask. He wore that toward the end of a Strange Tales run, and right after the end of a series, he still continued wearing it during his 2 follow-up appearances, and then he stopped wearing it. During his Strange Tales run, he introduced a few different characters. He introduces Clea, the woman who later became his apprentice/wife, Dormammu, Clea's uncle, and Doctor Strange's main arch nemesis. During also this run, it also introduced several characters during his run, like the Ancient One, the previous Sorcerer Supreme. Let's see. Baron Mordo, who is basically Doctor Strange's greatest rival, but not his greatest enemy. Baron Mordo is not exactly one of those people, basically, where he's kind of serious of a villain, but he's not a particular villain that would basically be a threat to the Marvel Universe. Dormammu, maybe, but not Baron Mordo. The only problem with Baron Mordo is he's dead. He died, unexplained how. He was found dead in Uncanny Avengers number 6. He was found dead by Kang the Conqueror, the Time Paradox from the future. But he does have a few other characters that was introduced during his run, like the character Eternity. Now, if you've ever seen the artwork for Doctor Strange, it is very eerie and very weird looking, very mystical, sci-fi-ish. But that's pretty much how his character is. Let's see, if I can forget any of his enemies. Let's see, we also got the Mindless Ones, which were also the first enemies of the Defenders. Mr. Rasputin, I don't know much about him. Nightmare. Oh yeah, I know about Nightmare. Another time. Satanish, Samgor, Taza, Yamor, who is, I think she is Clea's mother, I think it's, and Zota. There was also several characters introduced, supporting characters like, besides Ancient One and Clea, there's also Wong, his, kind of like his disciple plus his servant. And when Doctor Strange joined the New Avengers, and when they set up shop in the Avengers Mansion, he came on board with that. There's also Agamotto, which is where his eye, the eye that he wears on his chest, the eye that he wears, that was actually given to him by the Ancient One when he died. Now, there are basically... Now, Doctor Strange goes all over the place. He's a sorcerer. and he performs a lot of magic. Now back to his publication history briefly for a moment. Right after the end of a series, his story was continued in Submariner number 22, where he teamed up with the Submariner to take on the Mindless Ones, who later have the leader be called the Nameless One, which basically would set up some thread to set up the Defender series. Then after that, of course, Doctor Strange erased Namor's memory of the adventure. Namor still does not remember it. As far as I know, he's never really restored his memories of the adventure. Then, of course, he had to team up with the Hulk when the Hulk took on the Nightcrawler. Not Kurt Wagner from the X-Men. This is a different Nightcrawler. He's a creature from another dimension, because Hulk does occasionally go to another dimension. After that adventure, Doctor Strange retires from being Sorcerer Supreme. He takes up the identity, of course, off the time when he's not wearing his mask. He takes up the identity of Dr. Stephen Sanders, which he does have for a certain period of time. Then, right after that appearance, he made his return chronologically in the backup feature of Marvel feature number 1, which also features the return of Doctor Strange. The story is called The Return of Doctor Strange, where Stephen Sanders, a.k.a. Stephen Strange, goes back to his Sanctum Sanctorum, which has been his base operations for years in Greenwich Village, finds out that somebody is wearing his costume. His old costume when he was the Sorcerer Supreme, when he was Doctor Strange, actually. Wong never saw him without the mask before. So after Stephen Sanders, a.k.a. Stephen Strange, defeated the fake Doctor Strange, it turns out that Baron Mordo was wearing his costume. Okay. A little odd, but okay. Then basically, of course, Wong did not know at the time. He never knew that Stephen Sanders was really Doctor Strange. It's just an alternate identity for him so he could wear the mask. After that particular point in time, he stopped wearing the mask. He never wore the mask ever again. Ever in the history of his comic. He never had a costume. He never had a mask again. Then, of course, the story does continue in the lead feature of the title, which is basically sort of like the coming of the Defenders, in a way. Then, pretty much, of course, this layer sets up the Defender series, and also gives a chance for Doctor Strange to have his own solo feature. Now, while he was also being featured in Defenders, he was absent for issue 4. There was a reason for that, because it was going on in Marvel Premiere, which was the title which he got his own solo title back. He got basically his own solo stories again in pages of Marvel Premiere, which lasted from issues 3 through 14. Yeah, he took over the title basically from Adam Warlock, who had a very short-lived ongoing series. Pretty much issue 4, which is basically sort of a loose end they had to wrap up from way back in Marvel feature number 1. Then basically, pretty much, that after he finished up his run in Marvel Premiere, he was given his ongoing series again. It was started right back number 1, and this volume lasted for 81 issues and had 1 annual. Then right after this volume ended, he of course was also featured in Marvel Fanfare. Wait, that was another series. Then he went to then they decided to bring back Strange Tales and put him there as sort of with a co-feature with Cloak and Dagger. Then after 19 issues, the series got canceled again, where Doctor Strange was given his own title again, and so was Cloak and Dagger. Now, when Doctor Strange got his own series again, they decided not to call it Doctor Strange simply, and it was not another numbering. It was a completely separate ongoing series that just happened to star Doctor Strange in it, where it's called Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme. And also, during the course of the period of time, he was doing other stuff. He was more active in the 90s than he was ever before. He, of course, also did have some team-ups with Spider-Man. He also appeared frequently in Marvel Team-Up, stuff like that. I think he may have featured in Marvel 2-in-1, but he was featured everywhere. Yeah, he was featured everywhere. During the course from the 60s up until the 1980s. pretty much when the series started, not long after the series started, Doctor Strange and Kalia married. Yes, they legally married, and also basically it was also time for some loose ends from New Defenders, which have been canceled just a few years prior to that. And of course the series had annuals. They had 3 annuals published, but they were a continuation from Doctor Strange Annual 1 and 2. And basically it started from Annual number 2, which was issue 4, of course one of whom was also a crossover with the Return Defenders. He also helped get started with he also assembled several groups in the 90s, one of whom was the Midnight Suns. Interesting concept, the Midnight Suns, a group of supernatural heroes, which is very similar to Defenders, but he wanted nothing really much to do with Defenders. Of course, he also started up he also basically, in his own title, set the stage for the Secret Defenders series, where he basically set up the splinter groups within it. Like, he set up the Night Stalkers, he set up Darkhold. He even met the current Ghost Rider, who was Danny Ketch at the time. Oh, excuse me. Who was later revealed to be the previous Ghost Rider's half-brother. Let's see. He didn't take part in missions when it comes to Secret Defenders. He just did whatever he wanted. He actually stopped appearing in Defenders, the original Defenders series altogether with issue 24, because the following issue of the series became New Defenders, and the series took a new turn, new focus. Pretty much, he was also featured in Marvel Fanfare for several issues. I think he may have also featured in Marvel Comics Presents, but that's here or there. This series lasted for 90 issues. Now, also, besides that, he was part of all 3 Midnight Suns crossovers, which is Rise of Midnight Suns, Midnight Massacre, and the final crossover, which is series they tie into, Siege of Darkness. Toward the end of the series, they decided to adapt a new change to it, where basically there were 2 different Doctor Stranges. One would be the Sorcerer Supreme, the other would be the businessman, Vincent Stevens. Of course, this creature became known as simply Pandora, Paradox. But then toward the end of the series, they decided to merge back together to one simple person to become the regular Doctor Strange again. Of course, Paradox also was wearing the old Doctor Strange outfit from the 70s. Doctor Strange later got a mini-series right after the series ended, the story is called Flight of Bones, but it's Doctor Strange's 3rd volume was a 4-issue mini-series. He was featured on and off in the Marvel Universe after that. He used to appear maybe Marvel Team Up, stuff like that. He got a mini-series called Strange, which was an alternate version of him. He did also appear in the revival Defender series in the late 90s, which lasted for a year, and also featured in The Order. But his appearance is simply on and off. He did occasionally appear in Spider-Man, for a team up here or there. I mean, right after the 90s and the 2000s, he didn't do very much. That was until around the time he joined the New Avengers. Now, there was also, in the early 2000s, he didn't do very much, besides being Defenders, and have his own miniseries. But he did make epic return in New Avengers 7 when he was found out to be a founding member of a group known only as the Illuminati, which he was part of the group. As a matter of fact, he was always part of the group. And then after the Illuminati one-shot, which basically, in that one-shot, they basically voted him the Hulk out of space. All of the members were there except for one member, and that was Professor Xavier. He was absent because of the events of M-Day. So he was not absent. Basically, so Illuminati voted sent it to Hulk out of space, which they did. He was already in outer space anyway, so they shot him off the other planet, and Hulk was pissed off at them about that. Then they came back with World War Hulk. Doctor Strange got the crap beat up by the Hulk. Yeah, this was quite out for him. Then after the events of World War Hulk and of course the Civil War, after the Civil War, he joined the New Avengers. which, as a member of the New Avengers, he offered his home as a base operation, just like he did with Defenders and the Secret Defenders. Then, after issue 50, he actually was 50. It was issue 38. After it wasn't 30. It was after the second annual for the series, he resigned. I don't know why, but he did. Then he returned to issue 51, where he was searching for a new Sorcerer Supreme, because he had given up the position of Sorcerer Supreme. And of course, the new Sorcerer Supreme was Brother Voodoo, who later got as an ongoing series, which was brief and was only 5 issues. I can talk about him in that video. He was back with after that. He didn't do very much after that. He didn't take part in Siege. He was invited to come back to New Avengers by Luke Cage after the events of the first story arc of the second volume of New Avengers, which he stayed with the team, beginning with issue 7. 6. 6, he actually rejoined the New Avengers, and he stayed from that point on up until the end of the volume, and then he went over to, he did take part in Avengers vs. X-Men, and he did take part in Fear Itself, and what happened with the Shattered Heroes thing, with the whole thing with basically New Avengers versus Dark Avengers. And now he's in Illuminati. Now he's in New Avengers, which I don't know why they kept him on board for. In my opinion, if you want to give Illuminati a series, give them their own series. Don't call it New Avengers. The only reason why it's called New Avengers is because Marvel wants to make money. If you want the Illuminati to get their own ongoing title, give them their own ongoing title. Don't give them a title that was previously part of a New Avengers team. Okay? Last time I checked, they're not called New Avengers. They're called the Illuminati. Everybody can see that. Why can't Marvel see that? If you want to read an Avengers title, what simply calls them like New Avengers, we want to see Avengers, not Illuminati. My opinion about this is simply this. Disband Illuminati very soon. Give Doctor Strange an ongoing title again, because he is a very interesting character. I mean, he was a neurosurgeon who got into a car accident and fractured his hands, and he couldn't perform surgery anymore. So he went to many different doctors to figure out how to restore his hands, so they couldn't do anything. He lost most of his money, and he sold his last position to go to Tibet to a monastery where he met the Ancient One. And basically, he taught him a few things. He never said he would restore his hands. He never said that, but he would teach him other things. He did become the sorcerer. He did become a sorcerer, and of course, Baron Mordo was there. Yes, this is actually a rare occurrence where in a comic book origin, where a villain was there when he started out. Of course, Baron Mordo basically was later built to be the disciple of Dormammu, and he tried to kill the Ancient One. Doctor Strange tried to warn the Ancient One, but Baron Mordo stopped him. Then, of course, Ancient One kind of knew about it, but since he did admire Doctor Strange's courage, he offered to teach him how to use magic, which allowed him to use his hands again. And so, yeah, that's his origin story. And he performs many different spells. He forms teams. He formed the Defender. He formed the Midnight Suns. He formed the Night Stalkers. Yeah, he picked out the Night Stalkers, which is basically Blade, Animal King, and Frank Drake, the modern-day descendant of Count Dracula. Yes, Marvel Comics is the Count Dracula, and yes, he's very much alive. Now, I can't think of anything else for Doctor Strange. If there's anything I missed from Doctor Strange's history, or anything that particularly big point, please put in the comments below. And like this video. The whole point of me doing this is sort of educate people how cool these characters are. You should pick up their stuff. I mean, at least Marvel doesn't retcon many years of history. If they do that, they'll lose a whole bunch of people. They'll basically go out of business if they retcon basically 70 years of history. Excuse me. So Doctor Strange is not treated like a stupid character. He's an interesting character to read about. So, I don't care who writes him. Just give him an ongoing series. Pick a good writer and a good artist. And that's that. Come up with good stories. Do something with the character. I mean, you don't have to feature him in a group title. Give him his own ongoing title. He was great when he had an ongoing title. Alright? Now, this is my longest video. I just reached the 20-minute mark. My first 20-minute video. So, that's pretty much it. Alright? I'll see you all in my next video, which will probably be Doctor Strange's counterpart in the DC comic universe. Dr. Fate. Bye.